Hello, welcome to Five Star Conversations in the Sun City. My name is Michelle M. Hollis, and I'm super happy to be here with you today and with the guests that I have. An incredibly esteemed researcher and doctor here, Dr. Jessica Calderon-Mora. Now, in the world that we're living in today, with ongoing concerns about public health, whispers of future pandemics, rising healthcare costs, strained systems, and growing conversations about how resources are being allocated towards technology and infrastructure, it feels more important than ever to have an honest conversation about prevention, screenings, and personal responsibility around our health. This way we can lead effectively. Now, I recently had the wonderful opportunity to be cast in a short educational video focused on breast cancer screenings. On set, I met Dr. Jessica Calderon-Mora, an assistant professor in population health and operational director for the Cancer Prevention and Control Program at the UT Austin Cancer Center. With more than 20 years dedicated to cancer prevention in underserved communities, her work focuses on increasing access to screenings and helping people take action before illness progresses, which is super important. Look, the reality is healthcare systems can become overwhelmed, and we saw that here in the borderland during COVID. Resources can become limited, but early awareness and proactive care are still within many of our control. That's why conversations around breast cancer screenings, preventive care, behavioral health, and early detection are not optional leadership conversations anymore. They are responsible ones. And so especially for those of us who lead families, teams, businesses, communities, and caregiving spaces. Dr. Calderon-Mora's work reminded me that prevention is not passive. It requires intention, education, consistency, and access. And in today's attention economy, some entertainment mixed in with the education can really go a long way to communicate a message. While not every diagnosis can be prevented, there is meaningful work happening right now through research, community outreach, and expanded screening initiatives that can absolutely improve outcomes and save lives. This is why I'm committed to elevating more healthcare voices through five-star conversations in the Sun City, not to create fear, but to encourage preparedness, awareness, and informed action. Because taking care of our health is not just personal anymore, it is communal. So please help me welcome Dr. Jessica Calderon-Mora.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here with you.
I'm so happy that you're here, and thank you for taking the time to share all of the wonderful information that you're learning and that you're affecting and being able to communicate to the community and come up with solutions for our personal health. Now, let's just toss the elephant in the room right away, and that is I don't know about you talking to the viewer, but breast cancer is scary. I'm scared to death. And maybe more scared to life. I hope I would say about breast cancer. I've had several people very close to me in my family that are survivors, thank goodness. And a lot of that had to do with early detection. And so I'm going to ask you just a kind of a quick question is, I'm going to call Dr. Jessica, and it's with the utmost respect, but we decided that just so everybody knows. But how worried should the everyday El Pasoan woman, man even, how worried should we really be about breast cancer?
So breast cancer is the most common cancer that we see among women. 1 in 8 women do get affected and develop breast cancer. However, we're not seeing higher rates in Texas than we see nationally, which is a good thing, because with a lot of other cancers, we'll see, especially here in El Paso, perhaps higher rates of certain types of cancer. And we don't necessarily see that with breast cancer. So I'm not one that likes to instill fear. I'm in the field of public health and I want to instill awareness and education, but not fear. So yeah, we should all be worried. Cancer is something nowadays that I think we've all been personally touched by. A couple of decades ago, it wasn't the case. Now I think we all know somebody intimately that has had to, a survivor or had to deal with cancer. So I wouldn't say so much worried as knowing that we need to start making informed decisions at certain points. So
that is fantastic. And yes, let me ask you this real quick. And this is kind of just something now that, based on what you said, like, do you believe that it is like kind of the work that people like yourself are doing to get the word out about breast screening? Do you believe that that's playing a part in why are we seeing more people, more women going out to get the screenings? What is your experience with that?
I mean, yeah, I'd like to believe it is. So I've worked, breast cancer is more new to what I've been working on. I work on colorectal cancer, and then my niche is really cervical cancer screening. But in general, what we see with these types of cancers is that, yes, the education we're getting out there, and because we have programs that can potentially pay for the services for individuals that can't pay out of pocket, it does start getting more people to be screened. And it really, I can talk a little bit about that more in detail as to why I think that is, but it is really getting people to know more about it. But what happens, what we're seeing in programs, and it's across the state, is as we start getting more under-screened women screened, we're going to find more diagnosis, just because these women had never been screened before.
That part.
Across the board for all types of cancer in these programs. You start looking at people that haven't, followed the guidelines, haven't been screened, and of course you're going to see more cancer because it was probably already there. It just hadn't, they hadn't checked for it. So it does help increase, but there's still, a lot of my work is focused on uninsured individuals, and you'd be surprised how many insured individuals are still not getting those screenings. So that's something we have to work more on as well.
I am so glad you mentioned that, because I believe that to be true. And I think that, a lot of women, especially in leadership positions, etc., a lot of times, or just like, this, like I was talking about, this channel is focused on healthcare. So a lot of times when you're a caregiver, etc., you put your own health to the wayside. And, a lot of people do have insurance and can go to those preventive opportunities to, check in with themselves and their health. And it's so important to do that. And I feel like now, Jessica, that I feel like, especially now, like with the state of healthcare and the state of our union, Lord, it's just, I feel like if you have healthcare, you need to go get a screen right now. Like, get as much as you can out of the healthcare that you're paying for, and that you have while you have it even. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely agree that I wish, insurance companies, I know some do, I will say some employers push like, okay, you've hit that age, it's time to get screened. But I wish we heard more about that from employers. And I've worked in a medical school setting for, almost going on 2 decades now. And even then, we don't get enough information on screenings, which is kind of ironic, right? Given that I work right smack dab in the middle of, medical school and always have, that we tend to focus on others instead of ourselves. So it goes along exactly with what you said. And then in El Paso, you add that cultural aspect of, I need to take care of my kids. I need to, those of us living in the sandwich phase, I need to take care of my elderly parents.
Which are a lot of us.
A lot of us are in that phase, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm going to take sick time, it's going to be for my kids or my parents, not necessarily for me. And that's something, we can start looking at that not only helps with those that are insured but uninsured. We need more weekend hours at clinics. We need more evening hours.
Yes.
Mobile clinics, things that are just easily accessible to the entire community. So yeah, but I am with you that if you're insured, I wish there was just like a cheat sheet on, okay, if you're this age, these are all the screenings you need, because we can't always rely on our providers to do that. If you're there for a sore throat, they're not going to say, hey, by the way, let me get you this order for.
They sure aren't.
So yeah.
Then that leads me to a different question, which all these questions are not even the questions that that we were going to talk about, but I'm just like, because I'm thinking from, just the everyday person's, perspective and hearing what you're saying. And, is there a cohesive system of healthcare providers that do, is there a successful cohesive system that you're aware of in this region that really is doing a great job of really moving people, maybe taking on a patient as a holistic, maybe plugging them into a holistic ecosystem. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say, to where really optimum care and not just treating symptoms is paramount, or is like at the forefront of that system. Is there anything like that exists that you're aware of?
I mean, as you know, a resident of El Paso myself, constantly going through different doctors. I can't say I found one yet. But I feel like that's a struggle with a lot of us here, is finding that consistent provider that we're happy with, that offers that holistic kind of care. So I can't say that there is any one place. However, I will give a plug to my partnering clinic, Project Vida Health Center, that I've worked with for many years.
Absolutely.
Amazing. I will tell you, I have a research study with them looking at self-collection for cervical cancer screening. And one of our eligibility criteria is women that haven't been screened in 3 years. And they do such a great job at screening that even if they're in the waiting room and we're trying to recruit them, they'll say, oh, well, I was just in my appointment and I was here for a sore throat, but they had me do a pap while I was here. And I'm like, that is exactly what you should be doing, is those opportunistic visits where no matter what they're in there for, you're reminding them of other things. So firsthand, Project Vida does an amazing job at that.
I am so glad that you brought up Project Vida, because they are such a blessing and a gift to this community, and I don't know that people realize how incredible that they are. Just a quick, just to kind of let you know a little bit more about my relationship with Project Vida. In fact, I just got off of a call with the peer recovery specialists, and because when I first moved back to El Paso in 2019, thank you, Tiffany. Tiffany said it's a great topic. Love this topic. Thank you so much, Tiffany. When I first got back here to El Paso in 2019, I was a mess. I won't go into the long story, but it was kind of like a midlife crisis kind of deal. But I picked up the phone. I was trying to find help, and I was blessed enough to connect with Project Vida, and they said, oh, you should talk to our peer recovery specialist. And I talked to Jamie, who's I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but she's a peer recovery specialist, and she literally was the most beautiful person to have in my life, and she helped me so much and helped me overcome my addiction issues and really look at my healing work, and get signed up with Project Vida to get my screenings. Like, I got all of my healthcare, just that baseline, and it's a peace of mind that you get when you do get your screenings, your all of your healthcare screenings. It makes you feel like it's a great place to get back into control of your life. So thank you for bringing up Project Vida, because I absolutely agree. And I think that we can, that's something that we all can work together to continue to do. And that's why I'm having you, here on the show today to talk about your research and the things that just so people can get an idea of what's going on in the borderland. So now I have a question that I bet a lot of people ask, and I think I understand what this term means, and I wonder if a lot of people really understand what it means or not. So I know that your work focuses heavily on underserved and underscreened communities. What does underserved community mean? Is that a location? Is that a type of person? Can you help us understand that?
Yeah, so I think, at least in my experience, the origin kind of comes from a federal designation of being medically underserved. So they look at the amount of physicians in an area compared to the population. So, if it's one doctor for every 150, I forget what the optimal number is,
Right,
as I can't think what that number is, but if it's under a certain threshold, you're then designated as a medically underserved area. So El Paso County is a medically underserved area, just to realize. Then there's also like rural designation. So we consider rural counties underserved for the reason that there's very few providers there. A lot of our surrounding counties like Presidio, Brewster, Culberson, a lot of them might have like that one clinic system that it's almost like urgent care, right? So you can get care for acute issues, but also then end up in their ER, so it's all kind of connected. So rural areas are also considered underserved. Underserved has kind of become a taboo word. I don't know if it's just in the funding world that people don't like that phrase.
Well, do you think it has something to do with like the whole DEI thing? You think
Yeah,
that
it
might have
really,
something to do with this? See,
it
that's
really
whack.
does, because essentially it means like historically marginalized populations, right? So racial,
Yes.
ethnic minorities, low income, low education, those without insurance. That's traditionally what we mean when we say underserved. Reproductive
Mm.
or that kind of thing. So underscreened has become something that we're kind of trying to use a little bit more, meaning again going back to they're not compliant with whatever the advisory board guidelines are for that particular screening, that whether it be diabetes, cancer, whatever it might be, that they're not compliant. So if it says every 2 years you should be getting a mammogram, start that it's been 5 years, well then you're underscreened. Or that you've never had it done, then you're underscreened. So that's kind of the difference. Is underserved is a little bit more broad. Underscreened is specific to like health conditions.
I actually, I think I mean, I kind of like that actually. I mean, I found, I'm really, because I found, and I'm 44 years old. I went through a long period of disconnection from taking care of my health and things like that. And I think that, when we think about it, to your point, there can be a stigma in that too, to where somebody, because something I'm passionate about are the leaders in our community that are the entrepreneurs, the physicians, the practitioners. They need to get screened too, and it's easy. It would be easy for them, because you think underserved, you're thinking low economic status, etc. But really, it's everybody. So I actually like that pivot to the word underscreened, because that really does. It's also broad, but it's really more direct to what the issue is. Would you say that?
I agree. It's focused on a behavior, right? So when we're looking at things like HPV that we know is sexually transmitted, it's just that it becomes stigmatizing, right? When we talk about different types of conditions. But for underscreened, it's just a behavior of you not getting screened. It has nothing to do with you being born into a low socioeconomic status, that kind of thing, that
Right.
essentially becomes some victim blaming, right? So it's moved into more of behavior and that kind of thing.
Well, that too, and then also on the other side, it's like people think that just because they do have a higher economic status that they shouldn't be getting screened, and it's like, no, that's, so it kind of goes both ways.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you, in your experience, and I don't know if you know this, but are the underserved, or is there, are you noticing a disparity in the economic status of who is getting screened more and who's not? Is there any information about that, or that you'd like to focus on?
Yeah, there definitely is. So, as you'd expect, the underserved, so as I kind of described, those with lower income, lower education, lower health literacy, don't have insurance, they are not getting screened as often as those that are not in that category. So, we definitely see not only screening disparities, that's when you start seeing the incidence disparities. So, incidence being new cases. We see more new cases among those that are underserved. We see more mortality, so more death related to that. And that typically is because they're diagnosed at a later stage. So that's the biggest thing. And the reason why we really focus on the underscreened is that we want it to be detected at a point when it's treatable. But unfortunately for the underserved, if they can't afford it and it gets caught late, it is no longer at a feasibly treatable stage.
Oh my goodness. So you said that the entire El Paso County is considered underserved due to the ratio of physicians to citizens.
Yeah, I don't want to misspeak. I believe it's the vast majority. I think there might be some communities or areas of El Paso County that are not considered a medically underserved area, but the majority of the county is. Yes.
Okay,
And
wow.
physician shortage, yeah.
Oh yeah, physician shortage. Wow, that's is that something that your different departments are kind of like working on attempting to remedy? Is getting recruiting more doctors.
So definitely in El Paso. So prior to being at UT Austin, I was at Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center.
Oh, okay.
And so our really big draw there was to say, you know, we really do want to see people from El Paso going to medical school and then wanting to serve their community, or bringing others from outside of El Paso that fall in love with El Paso and want to stay either in this community or surrounding rural communities. So that really is a big push to have people stay in primary care and then to stay
Yes.
in underserved areas. So I know El Paso really, you know, the Paula Foster School of Medicine really has done a great job of trying to keep individuals here. And so what I look for on match day, which is when the residents match to a certain program after med school, is I love to see those that are staying in El Paso, because, you know, there's evidence showing that where you get your residency is more than likely where you're going to continue your career. So I know if they've gotten matched to El Paso, chances are they'll stay. And so that's really what we want to see.
That's fantastic. And so when it comes, so I have a question when it, you know, bringing it back to breast cancer awareness, and breast cancer screening awareness, because we want to focus on the behaviors that are going to make us a healthier community. When it comes to breast cancer and overall cancer prevention, are women more likely to get breast cancer than men? That might be a weird question, but I've always wondered that.
No, it's a great question. Yes, definitely it's much more rare in men, but men can't forget that it does exist too. And it's not necessarily that another male relative had breast cancer, it's a mutation in a gene. So really it's just if there's, you know, well, it's also other things I could go on and on about, right? Environmental exposures. But men need to remember that if there's a breast cancer history in their family, it applies to them as well, even if it's only been in females. But it definitely is more common in women. I don't know the exact rates off the top of my head, but it's definitely a lot more rare among males than it is females.
And to that question, Dr. Jessica, I'm wondering, because you brought up a good point, you know, like maybe there's breast cancer in the family and that does increase the risk whether you're male or female. So my question is also, if there's any kind of cancer in the family, does that increase your risk of any, like if your family member, does that increase your risk of having a different kind of cancer? I just wondered, and you know, maybe that's like too deep of a question. I don't know.
It's not too deep. I just feel like we maybe don't know enough about that yet to have a really clear answer on that. Typically, when we talk about family history risk, we talk about that specific cancer increasing risk for that specific type of cancer.
Oh, is that how it kind of works? That's typically how it works? Oh, that's interesting.
But it's good to know that, because I know I can even say in my family, people don't talk about their family history. It's just, I think it was in our stomach. Like, people don't know the exact type of cancer. And so what I've learned is it's really important that you do know what kind of cancer your family members had, because that's the type of cancer that you might have an increased risk for. And it might be small. It might not be a huge percentage, because unfortunately most cancer cases are not genetic. But
I did learn that.
So it's good to know your family history, right? For example, you know, I had an aunt that passed away from colorectal cancer at a very young age. She was 48.
Oh my goodness gracious.
So I have had colonoscopies since I was 27. I've had them every 5 years, just knowing, you know, and I have had the mutation blood work done. I know I don't have the mutation, but it's still just something that the doctors recommend I get done more regularly, and obviously a lot earlier than the average risk person.
Wow, that is interesting. I mean, I never thought of that, because of course now I'm sure a lot of people right now are probably thinking, dang, I have had aunts, uncles, cousins, you know, other people in my family who have had different types of cancer. Maybe there's additional screenings that I should be getting. And you said that was an aunt. Did you say that was your aunt, or?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it doesn't necessarily it doesn't necessarily, quote unquote, have to be your parents. It can be any.
It's typically first degree, right? It's typically a parent, a child, or a sibling. But it's always just best to talk to your physician. So for me, I thought, okay, it's a second degree relative. I might not need to. And they said, well, because, you know, your mom, usually when she gets her colonoscopies, she has benign polyps. It's just better that you get checked. And so So it really is best that you have that conversation with your doctor, but in order to be equipped to have the appropriate conversation, you really need to know what kind of cancer your family had. So that's always my first recommendation, is start talking to your family, get that family history, and make sure it's accurate. It's really important that we know, we might know our bodies best, but we also need to know what happened to our family.
Wow, that is such a different approach too, to thinking like, okay, let me talk to my primary care physician about this and get their recommendation. So absolutely, that's huge, everyone. Whether you've had a screening or not, I think when I got my screen, I just got a screening like last year, and they were good about asking a lot of questions about, if we had a history. So make sure you answer those honestly, and be prepared for that question, I should say, because I wasn't necessarily prepared for that question when I went. And again, this goes back to that education, because a lot of people, even when you schedule the screening, it's not necessarily like they give you a bunch of information to be thinking about before you come into the screening. Like, it is kind of up to us to educate ourselves and to plug in. So that's why we're having even this conversation. And so Jessica, I have a question when it comes to why people delay screenings. Is that anything that you look into? Do you have any, maybe research or, kind of something we can think about of like, why would someone watching here know that it's something good for them, but still just log off somehow and not schedule that? Do you have any information for us?
Yeah, definitely. So I've done quite a bit of like focus group work and survey work in El Paso. Like I said, the rural counties surrounding El Paso, and then now in Austin and Central Texas surrounding counties. So we see the same thing across Texas. There's really no difference. But really, it's what I mentioned before. So not having insurance or not being able to pay, even if it's a small amount out of pocket, not having that and having to choose between your meal for your family or a screening. It's also, and this goes for everybody, insured or uninsured, but embarrassment. If it's a mammogram or a pap smear, am I going to have a female provider? There's people that, it's really important that it's a family decision and that their spouse supports it. And again, when it's a mammogram or cervical cancer, there are some partners or spouses that might not be supportive of somebody else, looking at your private parts or parts that shouldn't, really be looked at. So that's still something that happens.
Wow, that's so scary.
And then the one that we see again across, everybody is this idea of, we used to really call it fatalism, but it's this idea that if I go get screened, I'm going to find out I have cancer, because that's what happens to everybody. The second you get screened, and that's when you get diagnosed, so.
Yeah, people have that. And then now with so much, misinformation, or, there's the armchair couch sleuth, that who's like,
social media has changed all of that for sure, right?
What's that?
Social media has changed so much of that.
It has, yeah. We've gone, we go down. I stay in a rabbit hole, I stay in a rabbit hole, but it's just like, because I remember something that I've heard that people say, like, you getting the breast cancer screening it's the radiation that's gonna actually cause the cancer. And I hate to say it, but I kind of see a point of why someone why that thought would kind of like correlate.
Right.
What have you done to maybe dispel that myth, or have you thought about that, dispelling that myth?
Oh yeah, for sure. So we tried to address that in all of our programming, both when I was, working at Texas Tech in El Paso and now at UT Austin. So we do those types of focus groups and surveys to find out what kind of myths or barriers we need to address in our education. So then we kind of build our education. Of course, we use evidence-based sources as well, but then we want to address those concerns. So we will bring up those very things in a way that's relatable. So a lot of the pretty much every program I'm in incorporates community health workers or promotores de salud And so those bring in individuals that are relatable to our population. So they're from the very neighborhoods that our population is coming from. They speak the language, literally and metaphorically, and they just feel comfortable speaking to them. So they'll, if they bring up one of these concerns, especially the myths, as soon as I get screened, I'm gonna get cancer. We always have these things prepared, how they can address it. We don't necessarily have like a specific script, but just saying, that's not what evidence shows. Evidence shows it's safe. For, example, a mammogram, it's as much radiation. I mean, you go to the dentist, don't you? You are exposed to radiation every day. A mammogram is no more than a couple weeks, of you being outdoors and getting radiation exposure. So,
see, that's good.
Kinds of things prepared to say. We try to think of all the myths that we've heard in our focus groups and everything to really address that, because what we found is that coming from the community health worker is that, they feel, okay, they're educated on this. They know what they're talking about. They work with the doctors. And so they kind of take that as valid. And it really does help to, not only that, but it helps them to spread the word to their neighbors, to their family members as well. So that's kind of how we have addressed it and promoted awareness. Another thing we do is, and you spoke to it, is create videos that are almost like a novela style, right? It's very like dialogue driven, what would really happen, how a conversation would really happen with individuals in the community. And that helps too, because again, it brings that relatability of, okay, I'm not the only one that thought it, apparently others have thought this, and okay, good, they gave a reason why that's not the case. So
yes, that was such a great project, and that's of course how I met you, was was doing that. And that was such a challenge because for me, you're learning a script, and I want to give you a little bit. I don't know if I told you this. Did I tell you how I met James? Did I tell you that?
No.
No, this is actually insane. So I went to Lincoln Park one day in order to sing. I was singing at an event, but that day it ended up flooding out, which was interesting. And I mean, it was pouring down by the time I got there, but I still went. And I had seen some friends that I hadn't seen in a long time. And they're vegan chefs, a vegan chef and mixologist couple, Dom and Red, whom I love. And so I saw them, and then like maybe a day or two later, they called me and they're like, hey, one of our, regular clients saw you, and he was like, she would be perfect for this part.
That is a great story.
I know. I was like, and so they tell me that. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And so I called him back, and then I, auditioned for the part, and then I got the part, and I was like, that was so random. And then it turns out that not only did that happen, but then I could relate to the character. So my character was Gloria, and Gloria's a retired nurse who, is also a survivor of breast cancer. Well, someone very close to me and my family fits that to a T. And then my grandma who passed away, her name is Gloria. So I was like, oh my God, this, and then here I am doing, having a healthcare media channel. And I had no idea that this was going to be involved with healthcare. So I just was like, wow, that was really cool.
Very serendipitous. I love it.
Yes. And, I think that, I think the entertainment and the education piece, like you were saying, having, the way that we were just having that conversation, and there was humor in there, and, you all put together a round table of women of different ages, different ethnicities, and different mindsets to really illustrate the concerns that different people have, different women have, and how to dispel those concerns. So it was really great. I hope it came out good. I haven't seen it yet.
We've seen the first cuts, and it looks amazing. So I'm excited when it's done to share that with you, so you can share as well. So yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm super, super excited about that. Okay, so so as you're speaking to access to people that don't, women that don't have maybe don't have insurance or don't have copay to go ahead and move forward with getting breast cancer screenings, what are you doing, and what are you all doing at UT to um, to dissolve that barrier, and maybe point us to some places that people can go?
Yeah, so I'll kind of start off talking about what we're doing at Dell Medical School, and then I'll let you all know what's available in El Paso, at least as far as I'm aware. So
Perfect.
at Dell Med, we have a state-funded grant. It's funded by the Cancer Prevention and Research Institute of Texas. We have the Advancing Breast Health in Central Texas grant that's been going on now, I want to say about 8 years or so. No, sorry, about 5 or 6 years. And we're getting ready to apply for a continuation. But really what it's doing is partnering with a federally qualified health center in Travis County. So it's the Lone Star Circle of Care. They have a mobile mammography van called the Big Pink Bus. And so essentially what the grant was doing was paying for, technicians, drivers, a navigator on the bus to help women that were coming through that FQHC to get screened. But now we've been able to expand that to where we're not only trying to reach the clinic population that might already have access to care, but we're doing more community outreach. So going to health fairs, going to libraries, going to different types of community partners to find women, again, that are uninsured and haven't been screened in the past couple of years with the mammogram. And then what's happening there, we have our own community health worker and a patient navigator who provide education on what is breast cancer, when should you get screened, what is a mammogram like, really walks them through the steps of what a mammogram is like. And then we're able to schedule an appointment with them and even help like with transportation issues, that kind of thing. But we essentially pay for their mammogram. And then also, if it comes back that it's abnormal, we kind of help them schedule follow-up, like a diagnostic mammogram, biopsy, anything that's needed for follow-up, and then pay for those services as well. So we're essentially helping and navigating patients from either community or clinic all the way to the point of diagnosis. So that's what our program does in the Austin area. However, that was, sorry, go ahead. Did you have a question?
No. You kind of just answered it right then, because I was like, okay, so this is on the Austin area. And so
it was modeled after a program that my chair and mentor, Dr. Karen Shokar, started in El Paso at Texas Tech, which is the BEST program, BEST. And it works with Texas Tech, also with Project Vida. So kind of the same idea, doing that community outreach, paying for the mammograms and for services for uninsured women, and providing culturally tailored health education. So there is that program in El Paso as well.
And that's called BEST?
BEST,
And you said, what does that stand for? I got it's breast. Look at me trying to act like I'm gonna make it up. Hold on, let me
see. Breast education.
Who is it with?
It's with
Texas Tech?
Yes, University Health Sciences.
Okay, let me see if it'll show. Let me see if I could pull it up. BEST. I put it in BEST Texas Tech. No. El Paso. No, it's okay. We'll find it. Let's see. I have. Let me see.
Actually, it's just the breast cancer screening program. It's education, screening, and navigation program, and we just took different letters from there to make up.
Oh, okay. Okay, fantastic. I love me a good, what do you call it? Is it an anagram or something?
Yeah.
Acronym, yeah. I love it. Yeah, I love a good one. I love me a good one. Okay, great. Okay, so these are places that women can go ahead, and so they can tap into Texas Tech, and UT has, and then there's UT Austin, and then there's obviously UTEP. You think the best place for somebody who's watching this now who doesn't know where to start would be to start with this, with Texas Tech?
In El Paso, I would
in this region.
Yes, and so okay. I believe that there is a Instagram for sure.
Okay. Perfect.
Information.
Yeah, we'll find it, and then we'll make sure we drop it. We'll drop the link in the comments for all of these, for every location that we're at. So if you're watching on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, we'll make sure to drop those resources in and pin them in the comments. So absolutely, we'll make sure that we do that. And then let's see here. So I know you were talking about some at-home screenings. Is that something that can you give us a little bit of information? Would you like to share with us what that's for?
I would love to. So self-collection kind of screenings really are in the world more so of colorectal cancer and cervical cancer. So for colorectal cancer, annually starting now at the age of 45, the average risk individuals, which means nobody with a family history or some major symptoms.
That's this year for me. I'm like, oh, dang, oh no, I've got to move up a bubble in the are you between this and that.
The next age range, right?
The next age range, not feeling it.
I know. I'm a few years ahead of you, so I feel. But yes, so this is an annual, like a fecal occult blood test. I'm sure plenty of people have seen commercials for Cologuard.
Okay.
Whatever your primary care provider recommends, there's cards, there's a tube option, but really it's getting checked every year, and it's essentially checking for blood in the stool. So colorectal has that one, which there's also a program at Texas Tech El Paso. We also have one at Dell Medical School. Okay. And then my program is on cervical cancer screening. So as of right now in El Paso, there is De Casa en Casa, again through Texas Tech Health El Paso, that offers free pap smears for individuals who haven't been screened in the past 3 years, that for 21 to 65 years old, that's when we should start getting our paps. But what we've been seeing more in the literature is testing for HPV, or the human papillomavirus, is actually a lot better at detecting precancerous.
Is that right?
Yes. So HPV causes most cervical cancer cases. There are 200 strains of HPV, but there's 2 in particular that are mostly tied to cancer. That's 16 and 18 are the 2 strains. So when you turn 30, another really important thing I like to tell women is when you go in for your pap, make sure they're also doing that HPV test, because once you turn 30, it should be a co-test, so the pap and the HPV test, or just the HPV test alone. But the HPV part is really, really important. So,
I love how, not to interrupt you, but no. I'm glad, I want to highlight that, because you think you're going, a lot of times just as a patient, you're just going in and you're like, okay, I'm getting a pap, and you just literally assume that you're getting everything. And you think you're getting all the STD tests, you really do. I find it actually fascinating that it doesn't just work that way, because why not? But I guess maybe because you don't necessarily need all of them. Maybe you're not sexually active. I believe that no matter how you're sexually active, if it involves another person, you should be getting tested regularly. I hate to, not to be the doomsday prepper, but it is 2026. The only people that are going to stay on top of our own health is ourselves.
Exactly. And especially for HPV. HPV is the most common sexually transmitted infection. The rate is like 85% of us will have some type of strain in our lifetime. Most of the strains are transient, so they come and go on their own, but we have to be really careful with those high-risk strains.
Wow.
Cervical cancer, it's head and neck, which we're seeing a lot more of among men.
Wait, say that again. It's what?
Head and neck cancer, oropharyngeal. So it's when you see people like with, if they can't talk, when they have like a voice box or different things like that. So we're seeing that a lot more in men.
Is that right?
Anal cancer, penile cancer. So there's, it does cause a number of cancers, which also, shameless plug for the HPV vaccine. It's really important. If you're up to the age of 45, you can still get that vaccine. And we know.
Ooh, do I have an HPV vaccine? Uh-oh. Now I'm going to have to figure out. See, I don't know that if I do, but so you can only get up to the age of 45?
It used to be up to the age of 26, and they upped it several years ago. If you have a conversation with your doctor and they feel that it's right for you, it's up to 45. There's also another program in El Paso, Tiempo de Vacunarte, that helps to pay for that as well. But it is.
This is women and men. Should women and men be getting tested for HPV?
So men cannot get tested for HPV, which is why it's extra important that men get the vaccine.
That is wild.
It is wild. Yeah, there's currently no
That's interesting.
For HPV, which is.
Is there a genetic thing? This is just my curious inquiring mind. Is it a gender thing, or is it just because it's been focused for women testing?
Yeah, I think it's been so focused for women that,
That's
we'll get there. We just haven't gotten there yet to be able to.
that's interesting. Wow, that just goes to show how deep the systemic I don't even know how to call it. Just the systemic gaps are,
The
because
gender inequities that we
the
see.
that's the word I was looking for, gender inequity. And it's just like, because it always falls back to the woman's
I mean,
responsibility.
when the vaccine came out, it was just marketed towards girls and women. And it took 5 years for them to say, wait, we need to do this for boys too. So
That's incredible. Wow. Well, that's great, though. I'm glad we're talking about this, because I'm surprised at how much that we've learned, that you've just shared with us, even in just a short amount of time, about men's need to protect themselves also, and to make sure that there is no screening, but there is a vaccine. So just whatever we can do for preventive care, all around, with physical care, and then especially for cancer, because cancer, I've seen it work in several different ways, but it's a very time consuming and energy consuming and physically draining process to go through to eliminate cancer. And that's even if you just have a small, if you catch it early.
exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So that's why the screening, some people complain if it's the stool test or if it's a mammogram and, oh my gosh, it's painful. Or a cervical cancer, pap smears are not fun. We all know this, but I don't even want to call it an evil. To me, I'm like, it's just a few minutes. It could save your life, really.
It's a necessary precaution. It's a
Yeah.
it's a necessary maintenance, is a great way to say it. I love that concept, because it's just you taking care of yourself
Exactly.
is getting the screening. Do you recommend that women also get like colon screenings too? Or, I mean, is that the consensus in the medical community?
Yeah, for colorectal cancer screening, for sure, it needs to be both men and women. Yeah, and then
Okay.
the colonoscopy would be like once every 10 years, but that for an average risk person, so again, no symptom, like no current blood in the stool, no hemorrhoids, no family history, then you would do the blood in the stool test, which is something you can do at home really easy.
Okay. And is that something that they recommend at a certain age too?
That one's 45, so that for colorectal.
Oh, great.
I'll give you either cards or a tube to go do that when you turn 45. But real quick, I wanted to go back to the self-screening course.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
What we're finding now is that, and this has been done more internationally, where there had been a lot of work on women. The swab that they use for our pap smear, which is essentially looks like a huge long Q-tip swab, right? And there's patches as well. But essentially, they were finding that if they let women do it themselves, they were able to detect HPV, which again we knew was better than just doing a pap. So a lot of international work has been done, especially in the Netherlands. A lot of these countries have already incorporated that into their programs. But finally, it was starting to come into the States. So about 2 years ago, they said, okay, women can do self-collection with a swab or a brush, but it needs to be in a healthcare setting. So it'd have to be in the restroom or in an exam room or on a mobile clinic, but it has to be in a healthcare setting.
Oh, okay. It's not like at home or something.
Right. But then about a year ago, there was one device that was allowed to be used at home. It's called the Tool Wand. It's a little bit hard to access. It's a proprietary device, and you can only get it through their physician. So it's a little bit more difficult, not cost effective. So you won't see that at a Project Viva or at a community clinic. The cost is a bit exorbitant. However, the good news is that almost exactly a month ago, the FDA approved kind of like a regular, that's a specific brand, a specific manufacturer, but a swab that can then be given to women to take home and actually use to screen themselves.
Okay.
That's really exciting work that those of us in the cervical cancer field are super excited about. So we'll see how that gets implemented in clinics. because that has I could go on and on about, oh, you need the lab infrastructure and everything else, but we'll see how that kind of pans out.
Is it already available?
It is already available. Yeah, so it's the BD on Clarity swab. I can't tell you for sure that it's available at any clinic I know about.
Oh, okay.
But I am looking to try to start implementing it at a federally qualified health center in Austin at the community care center. So I will be writing a grant this fall to do that. Fantastic. But also, I'm on an executive committee for the Texas Cervical Cancer Elimination Plan. And so we'll be working, kind of providing training and capacity assistance for clinics across the state to help implementing that. And so since my friends are at Project VIDA, I know that we'll be, we'll definitely be including them on anything that we incorporate in the future. But as of right now, I can't say for sure because there's still some reimbursement issues with insurance on it. So we need to make sure everybody's aware of how to do that appropriately, how to bill. But
yes.
I'll let you know as soon as I know of any clinic offering that, but it is an option. It is approved. This isn't anything like a doctor giving it to you and it's not the real thing. As long as it's that specific brand, it's completely approved. And I will tell you so I'm doing a study at Project VIDA that's really research. So we're looking at, women that haven't been screened in 3 years, if we randomize them to do a swab at home, to do a urine sample at home, which also has a lot of international work, or just to do the traditional, go to the clinic and get your pathogen, which one will have a higher completion rate? And so as we expected, the urine sample is our highest rate because most women are used to already doing a urine sample, right?
That makes sense.
We're seeing
that makes sense.
That one, but also really high rates with the swab. So those are at like 95%. And then those that have to get a patch, it's like at 48% that are actually going in. So,
because it's that extra step of, like you said, that, I mean, gosh, and to your other point that you made earlier, it's like the 9 to 5 thing makes it real tough for women to get to the doctor.
Exactly.
I mean, because like you said, the emergencies kind of eat up your PTO or whatever the case may be, or you want to have it, and then you're just busy. It's hard. It's like you said, it's medical, so you don't necessarily want to be like, can I take off to go get to get my pap smear? Like you may not want to tell your boss that or whatever, there's just so many different factors. So it's great that at least with these two tests that can help them at least have some covering and some understanding of what's going on in their body.
What we found is it's a great option for those that have experienced sexual trauma. And also for the trans population, it's been helpful. So, again,
that's a blessing. That's a gift.
It really is. So introducing this, we're kind of, the way our group is kind of explaining it is it's just to add to the menu of options that people have. If you're somebody that is really good and goes in every year and gets your PAP and HPV, we're not asking you to stop that. It's for those women that it's very difficult to do that for whatever reason, So it's just an added option for women. And we know it's effective and it can, detect the HPV that we're looking, the strains that we're looking for. So.
And that it's important. It's important for people to go and to take advantage of anything that the community offers.
Right.
And I really, we did have some people that tuned in live as we've been talking, so I'm super grateful for that. And, I'm going to make sure that I get this message also out to the community and so that women, we can be thinking about these things because now is really the time. I mean, it's never a bad time. It's always a great time to take care of your health. I guess it's kind of like that one saying where they said the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. And the best time is today. So it's kind of like, okay, no matter what, today is where we are.
Yes.
What can we do to take care of ourselves? So, and that's a very, very important question, I think.
I agree. And I can't recall who gave me this advice many years ago, but they said the best way to remember to do your annual exam, which includes PAPs, to remember to go to the doctor to get your mammogram order, make that your goal for your birthday. That's your birthday gift to yourself. It's a date you'll always remember that every year you need to go in. And you're
that's beautiful.
Right? So, that's something that stuck with me.
You're taking care of, that's like a real live gift that you're giving to yourself when you do that. when, you know what I mean? Like, and people, I don't think people recognize how important to mental health it is for us to take care of ourselves.
Exactly.
You know, and they all feed, you know, mental health and physical health really feed and support each other in being the best. So I know there was one last question that I want to ask you, and I want to thank you so much for all of your information, and I'm just looking forward to, you know, continuing to learn more from you and to see more about what you're doing and how we can be, you know, more proactive when it comes to breast cancer screening and when it comes to all the screenings, to be honest. You know, it's all super, super duper important. And so my last question that I want to ask for you is, as, you know, your time and experience being, you know, doing your research and being a doctor here in the borderland and really specializing in public health, what do you believe will make the borderland a better place for everyday people?
I really think it's about making or equipping our community with the knowledge that they need. So I am one of those that's a firm believer in health education, and that might sound like such a generic term, but when I say health education, I mean meeting somebody where they're at. So talking to people in their language, using their terminology, asking questions, helping them address anything like we talked about before, myths, barriers, helping them actually go. You know, that patient advocacy is a big piece too, to say, hey, if you don't want to go alone, I can go with you. And so that's the beauty of a lot of our work, is that we have, it's almost like a built-in comadre, right? Like a built-in friend that's going to
Yes.
through that journey. And I think that's the best way to equip our community, especially our Latino community that functions so much on word of mouth. Then, you know, you're teaching one person, but ultimately they're going to be able to inform their entire household or whoever's in their social circle. And that's really the beauty of education. It's something that you give to somebody that you can't take away. And I think, you know, knowledge is power. And so just informing our community and them knowing where to go, then they're going to inform the next person. Or there's a testimonial of, you know, I found breast cancer at an early stage and it saved my life. You need to go to this program too.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. This is, yes, communication and community is going to be, that is a surefire way that will make El Paso a better place. I must wholeheartedly agree. Any last things that you want to let our audience know before we end?
No, but just I can provide any contact information if anybody has questions after. I'm happy to do that. And yeah, I'm just really all about, you know, helping the El Paso community however I can. So happy to answer questions, or if anybody has ideas on any programs or needs or anything, I'm here to be a resource and also to help be the voice for the community. So
I love that. Yes, thank you so much. And yes, I have ideas, and yes, we will be in touch. And I truly, truly, truly appreciate you today. So everyone, you know, make sure that you wherever you're watching this, we're going to put in, you know, we'll put some of the resources that we chatted about in the comments. I'll make sure to do that. And ask Dr. Jessica any questions that you may have that may come up. You know, ask them in the comments, and I'll make sure, you know, you can either tag her, or I'll make sure that, you know, she's able to see the questions and that she can respond if she has any resources or any ideas that she wants to share with you in response to your question, okay? And ultimately, if today's conversation reminded you of anything at all, then please do not wait to prioritize your health. Schedule the screening, ask the questions, encourage the people that you love to do the same. Because early detection is not just about medicine. It's about giving ourselves, our families, and our communities more time, more options, and more hope in a world that often moves too fast and asks us to carry so much. Taking care of ourselves is not selfish, it's actually extremely responsible. So once again, thank you, Dr. Jessica Calderon-Mora, for the work that you continue to do in cancer prevention, public health, and community education. And to everyone watching, thank you for being part of this growing community of people who care deeply about being whole well-being in the borderland. Stay tuned to 5-Star Conversations in the Sun City for more conversations with the healthcare leaders, wellness experts, culture creators, and community voices helping us build a healthier, more connected future together. Until next time, we'll see you soon, and thank you so much, Dr. Jessica.
Thank you.
All right, high five to the vibe, everybody. See you later.